Hello and welcome everybody to this next edition of Momentum Talks. I'm Greg Gunther. I'm co-founder and director of Your Business Momentum, business consultants to small business. And I have with me today David Carney, who is the owner and principal of Virtual Business Partners. And I'll let him talk a little bit more about what they do and how they go about that. But particularly, the topic for today is outsourcing. There's a lot of talk about outsourcing, and I find as I talk to people, not many or quite few people don't really understand what outsourcing is. So David's been doing this now for quite some time, and he's got some really good insights that he's going to share with us today. So welcome, David, and looking forward to having this chat with you.
Yes, thanks, Greg.
So, David, maybe first of all, so that people don't fully understand, in my experience, just exactly what outsourcing is. We hear a lot about it, but what would you consider to be outsourcing?
So, yeah, look, I mean, outsourcing can take many different forms, and I suppose really, if we look at it, it's nothing that new. We've seen that the corporate world have been outsourcing, services, key parts of their service offering, probably since the 90s. Manufacturing have been outsourcing the actual, well before that. And now really what we're seeing is just that, through technology, and, other forces that it's allowing that small businesses can look at, what we really call world's best pricing. So outsourcing is just about, working out, how we can sort of, get maybe, non-core functions such as maybe accounting or marketing, or marketing services, maybe, these sorts of things, and done somewhere, at a lower cost.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and I know your business. You didn't start this business as outsourcing. You had a financial planning background yourself. What are the sorts of things that you've identified that are very useful and very economical to outsource?
So, as I said, like anything that I think is maybe not non-core, and in the financial planning world, the key function of an advisor is really about client relationships. So it's anything, it's giving the advice, it's spending time with the clients, but in a world that's very compliant driven, a lot of paperwork, a lot of administrative tasks that need to be done behind the scenes to help deliver advice. All of those back-end sort of functions are the sorts of things that are ideal candidates to be outsourced. That's what we saw, and when I was working with a number of financial groups, and looking at things, it didn't matter, the size of the business, etc. Their number one bottleneck was, finding resourcing, retaining staff to be able to do all that work.
Mm-hmm. And I know some of the people that I've spoken to, they quite, I guess, it's a bit of a different thing for them to be working with somebody that's remote. I think traditionally just become used to having the resources in-house or contracted them out. What sort of things would you suggest to people who are perhaps challenged by that? How have you found people work remotely?
Yeah, okay. Look, a couple of points is, I suppose, whether it's outsourcing from an offshore or onshore, but more and more what we're seeing is, the global trend in workforce is to allow people flexibility in the workplace, to allow to be able to tap into what I call hyper specialisation. So, people that have got highly specialised skills in a certain area that you may need. And so, it could be on a contract basis, could be an outsourcing type arrangement, could be an employee that's worked for you that now wants to work remotely. And so being able to understand and use technology and be able to embrace, how you work with people, is I think a trend that's not going to change, and something that we just need to understand and be able to, work towards. There are some differences. There's obviously, challenges there, but it is something that people need to be open to and at least sort of understand how they can do that. Certainly, I guess most of the time you would suggest having a person sitting right next to you, is going to be preferable. But the way things are going is you need to be open to sort of be able to work with people anywhere, anytime in the world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you just touched on a really interesting point. I think people these days are looking for more flexibility as well. So you can, even if you were having somebody employed in your own business, often they're looking for flexibility of working hours, or, for working mothers, probably some flexibility to be able to work from home occasionally. So
yeah, that's right. So and so all of those sorts of things are, I guess the forces that sort of, you've got to compete with to be an employer of choice, to be able to, provide value, and what we see often is, we're working with firms where, we're taking away some of the tasks that just are time consuming, lower value, that frustrate, or, when we talk to the employees, it's the stuff that they loathe to do. But it drags them away from doing the stuff that they're really passionate about. And so again, we think that, if you can have your staff doing work that they love, which is often A, what they're good at, and B, that they're passionate about, if they're spending the majority time doing that, then you're going to, get better results. And then by freeing them up on those sorts of things.
Yeah, look, it's an interesting point you're raising. Like, one of the criticisms or pieces, the naysayers, if you like, around outsourcing, that you're sort of outsourcing jobs for local people.
Yep.
And I think the point you're raising here is that a lot of these jobs that are outsourced are actually often ones that are not well done, or perhaps even too easy to recruit into, because people are upskilling a lot more, aren't they, these days?
Yeah, look, I mean, it's certainly something when I first looked at this, and felt, having a couple of young kids myself, and going, well, we're taking jobs offshore. How does this actually, impact? And certainly it, has an impact. And often I say to firms I'm working with, look, don't shoot the messenger. I said, look, this is we are now working in a global economy. I said, anyone that's bought something online, offshore, you're potentially taking jobs off retail people. Anyone that's, dealing with a large corporate, they're using off, I go, get the sentiment of it, but what we need to as a nation be more switched on to is that we are becoming highly specialised, but, basic admin roles, etc., really at our, cost structure, where we've got one of the, the highest minimal wage cost in Australia, of anywhere in the world, means that we just can't compete. And so, I say to people, if you want to compete in that world, you just may have to lower expectations in the future. We've seen that in manufacturing. There were people that fought that for many, many years, but now we sort of quite accept that, majority of products are going to be produced offshore in China, and that's just, the way it is. So, we have to be, as a nation, making sure that, our children, our young adults, etc., are becoming highly specialised. And the best example I give of that is sort of, if you look at typically, something like, web development. Well, you go back, 15, 20 years ago, you had someone that you called your web developer, and they built your web page and etc. Now you have specialists. You have specialists that do, search engine optimization, inbound marketing, web coding, a whole bunch of sort of different roles, and that's specialities. And so, and in fact, I've seen that, many, many people, here in Australia are specialising in skills and getting work from all over the world. With some of these, and that touches on a point of, what is outsourcing. So you see that there's a large growth in what we call, web sourcing sites, such as Upworks and these, where you can just go on and place an ad, and you can, for a specific skill, and you can find anyone in the world to be able, who has that skill set to be able to do that job.